Welcome to Red Story. You haven't subscribed to the channel yet. Subscribe to new stories every day. My name is Oliver Bennett. In many ways, I'm an average 33-year-old guy, one of four partners in a successful plumbing business. When this story begins, I am married to Caroline, a stunning 32-year-old, often regarded as a trophy wife. She works as a secretary for the owner of the local BMW dealership. And together we have an 8-year-old daughter, Lily. We own a house in a nice part of town and a summer home on a popular island in the Baltic Sea. Caroline and I first met when I was installing the town's new central heating system at her parents' house. She was still living at home and in a foul mood, having recently broken off her engagement with a guy nicknamed Bullet Butt. The reason? An enraged husband had caught him sleeping with his wife and shot him in the bare backside with a salt-loaded shotgun. Bullet Butt was a notorious womanizer, but that time he'd gone too far. His real name was Brandon Smith. His mother had been an au pair in California and returned home 4 months pregnant. She named her son Brandon, believing it was the first name of her handsome American lover, though it was probably just an alias. Eventually, she reunited with an old classmate, Nicholas Smith, a man she had ignored in school but now saw as a convenient father for her child. Nicholas, once a shy and overlooked boy, eagerly embraced the chance to marry her despite the obvious baggage legally adopting Brandon. And to everyone's surprise, their family flourished. They had 2 daughters and built Nicholas's small computer shop into a chain of 12 large stores, which they later sold to a multinational company. With their newfound wealth, they bought a grand countryside estate where Nicholas, his wife, and their daughters took up horse breeding. Nicholas adored his stepson and spoiled him rotten, giving him everything he himself was denied in his youth. As a result, Brandon became a cocky, entitled brat. Blessed with wealth and good looks, he was wildly successful with women. Until he met Caroline for the first time, he was genuinely in love. But to his frustration, Caroline insisted on saving herself for marriage. Brandon, used to instant gratification, saw this as an obstacle but played along until his true nature betrayed him. After catching him cheating, Caroline ended the engagement, plunging her into deep sadness. Wanting to cheer her up, I asked her out on a date. To my delight, she accepted. We had a wonderful evening that ended at my apartment, where she confessed she'd decided to change her lifestyle, to experience the freedom her friends enjoyed. Perhaps as revenge against Brandon, she allowed herself to sleep with me that night. However, despite my best efforts, she refused any further dates. Soon, rumors spread that Caroline had embraced a wild party lifestyle, engaging in brief affairs, including, ironically, with some of Brandon's friends. Meanwhile, Brandon left town for university, continuing his womanizing ways, but never quite getting over the one woman he truly wanted, Caroline, who had denied him while engaged, yet slept with his friends later. His bruised ego could not accept it. A year after our brief encounter, I ran into Caroline again at a party. We reconnected, and she assured me her reckless phase was over. As we spent time together, our relationship grew serious. We officially became a couple, and 3 years later married when she became pregnant with Lily. A few months after our wedding, I was working on a plumbing job for one of Brandon's old friends. That guy smirked as he told me Bullet Butt had sworn he would sleep with Caroline one day and make sure the whole town knew about it. The friend claimed Brandon had never failed in seducing a married woman when he truly set his mind to it. That wasn't exactly comforting news for a newlywed. When I confronted Caroline, she promised never to give Brandon the opportunity to be alone with her, let alone act on his vow. Over time, the warning faded. Years later, we heard Brandon had married a wealthy English woman and moved to England, staying out of our lives. Caroline and I continued in what I'd call an average marriage with its ups and downs. Then, like a bolt of lightning from a clear blue sky, it all came rushing back. It was a Wednesday evening. Caroline and I were in our living room watching the weather forecast. Suddenly, Caroline turned to me with a serious expression. "Oliver, I need you to listen. I have something important to tell you," she said. I looked at her, puzzled. "All right, go on. Did something happen today?" "No, not today. It's something from the past. Before you and I met," she hesitated. "Do you remember my ex-fiancé, Brandon Smith?" I frowned. "Oh, you mean Bullet Butt?" "Yeah, I remember him. The guy who got shot in the ass for screwing someone's wife. Last I heard, he was still a complete scumbag. Why did someone shoot him again?" Caroline went pale. "No, nothing like that. He lives in England now, but he recently attended an old friend's wedding here. That's where he met Aubrey Grace Evans, Gabriella, who you might know. Well, She's the same person. Anyway, they hit it off. And when he found out she knew me, he was curious, asked a lot of questions about me. She ended up giving him my number. A cold chill ran through me. I remembered exactly what Brandon had promised to do. I kept my voice even. Did he call you? Yes, she admitted. We've talked a few times, reminiscing about old times. Old times? I scoffed. You were together, what, 3 or 4 months? He cheated on you, so it's hardly worth reminiscing about. You don't understand, she said, her voice pleading. We had dreams back then. I just want to talk about them. Dreams that should be behind you. What's the real problem, Caroline? She hesitated before saying he wants to see me. Of course he does. I recall he swore he'd sleep with you one day, prove it to everyone. Kinda hard to do that over the phone. She flinched at my words, going pale. Don't be ridiculous. He just wants to catch up as friends, nothing else. Fine, I said. Invite him over. We can have him and his wife for dinner. Caroline shook her head. No, he's not coming here. You won a bonus week at a 5-star hotel in Ischia, Italy, and invited me to go with him. His wife can't make it. She's afraid of flying. But she trusts him and has no objections to him meeting an old friend. I stared at her in disbelief. You've lost your damn mind. That's for sure. Please calm down and listen, she pleaded. I've already accepted. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. You and I could never afford a place like that. Not with the expenses for the summer house. My hands clenched into fists. So you're telling me you're going to Ischia with your ex-fiancé, the same jerk who bragged he'd eventually sleep with you behind my back. Don't be crude, Caroline said, face taut. He hasn't demanded anything from me, and I haven't promised him anything. I have no intention of cheating on you. No intention. I barked a bitter laugh. You know damn well what he's expecting. If you think he's paying for a luxury getaway just to catch up, you're either lying or knave. She shot back. You think I'm that easy? You think I'd throw away our marriage over a free vacation? You said yes, didn't you? I countered, voice rising. You forgot how determined he was to seduce you, or maybe you're flattered by the attention. Tears welled in her eyes. This is exactly why I wanted to tell you, so you wouldn't freak out. I'm just going for the sun, the beach, the 5-star experience. Then you're out of your mind. And guess what? I'm not staying here as your gullible husband while you flaunt yourself with that creep in Ischia. So you're giving me an ultimatum. No, I'm giving you a choice. Cancel or face the consequences. She stared at me, trembling, and then said quietly, I'm going. I need this. I deserve this. I felt a strange sense of calm. Then have a nice trip. I walked out of the room, my decision made. Our marriage was over. Now, months later, finally that evening, I called a neighbor, Morgan, who lived 4 houses down. Morgan was divorced and had a daughter Lily's age. We'd been polite acquaintances, but I had a sense she was kind. I invited her and her daughter on a trip to Disneyland with Lily and me. She was wary at first. What's the catch? She asked. I told her no catch. I just need to get away, and Lily would love a friend along. Morgan, after a day to think, agreed. When I told Caroline I'd be taking Lily on a trip during the exact week she planned to be in Ischia, she didn't bat an eye. She was too preoccupied researching beaches and restaurants, packing her finest clothes. We barely spoke. Finally, the day came. Caroline left early in the morning, heading to the airport. I felt a pain in my chest, but also relief. Once I knew she was airborne, I put the finishing touches on my plan. I wrote her a note. Caroline, the next time you see me, we'll be discussing the end of this marriage. You know exactly why. You made your choice by flying off to Ischia with that scumbag. If you think he's not expecting an affair, you're lying to yourself, but you don't care. Enjoy your lavish trip. I've already filed the divorce papers. There's no turning back now. Oliver. I faxed it to the hotel where they were staying, ensuring it would arrive shortly after they checked in. I'd also included a copy of the official divorce filing. I wanted her to see the immediate consequences of betraying our life together. Then Lily and I, along with Morgan and her daughter, left for Disneyland. We had an incredible time meeting the characters, riding the roller coasters, dining in whimsical restaurants. For once, I felt free of the tension that had weighed on me since Caroline announced her insane plan. Lily was all smiles, and Morgan's daughter bonded with her instantly. On the final night of the trip, after the girls fell asleep, Morgan and I shared a quiet conversation over coffee in the hotel lobby. She leaned forward, concern in her eyes. You okay? You've been holding up pretty well through all this. I exhaled. Better than I thought I would be. I guess a part of me was done with our marriage the moment Caroline refused to cancel that trip. Morgan gave my hand a gentle squeeze. Just remember, you're not alone. If you ever need to talk, we ended up talking for hours about our past relationships, our hopes for the future. There was no explicit mention of romance between us, but the emotional intimacy we shared felt like a foundation of something real. Meanwhile, Caroline discovered my letter upon check-in. According to the concierge, she freaked out in the lobby, demanding an earlier flight home. It turned out that the second he found out I faxed divorce papers, her lover, Brandon, tried to backtrack, telling Caroline this was just a friendly trip. He wasn't serious about seducing her. But she knew him better, realized he was spooked by the drama. After a shouting match, they parted ways in the hotel corridor. She tried calling me, but my phone was off. By the time she returned home, I was still in Disneyland with Lily. Caroline flooded me with texts claiming she did nothing with Brandon, that it was all a misunderstanding. I answered with a single line, "You chose him over our marriage. That's all I need to know." She insisted I didn't choose him. I just wanted a free vacation. I didn't bother replying further. The divorce process was in motion. By the time Lily and I got back, I had made arrangements to move in with Morgan. Not an ideal scenario, maybe, but better than staying in the house that Caroline and I once shared. Caroline returned, tearful and shocked, pleading for me to stop the divorce, but I refused. If she loved me truly, she would have slammed the door on that once-in-a-lifetime trip. That was her chance to show devotion. Instead, she flew off, ignoring every warning, every vow we made on our wedding day. Seeing the divorce, our daughter Lily still sees both of us, but she spends most of her time with me and Morgan's daughter. Caroline tries to act like the victim, telling neighbors how she never actually cheated, how it was all a big misunderstanding. But deep down, we both know the truth. Her betrayal began the moment she said yes to Brandon. Morgan and I aren't rushing anything, but there's a spark there, a quiet hope. We talk about the future, about building a stable, loving environment for Lily. And every time I remember Caroline's smirk as she bragged about a free trip to Ischia, I'm reminded that trust isn't destroyed in a single blow. It's worn away by self-centered choices. She picked a shallow fling possibility over her family. People sometimes ask me if I overreacted. She didn't even sleep with him, they say. But in my eyes, the emotional betrayal, the defiance, the disregard for our marriage was more than enough. Maybe she didn't have sex with him, but she invited him to, whether she admitted it or not. In the end, I'm relieved it's over. Freed from the constant suspicion, from tiptoeing around arguments, from worrying about whether my wife would keep her vow. Yes, it's painful. Yes, Lily struggles sometimes, missing having both parents under one roof, but a home built on lies is no home at all. So that's my story, a cautionary tale about how sometimes the loudest betrayal isn't even physical. It's the choice to disregard your spouse's feelings, risking everything for a moment of excitement, and how, when faced with that betrayal, the best path might be to walk away, head held high, ready to start anew with someone who knows the value of trust.